We're here for the Automate to Dominate podcast. I'm super excited about this series, about this show. I'm super excited about the guest we have today, Justin Scott. I'm going to go ahead and introduce him here in a second. Just wanted to tell you a little bit about the podcast. We are really gearing and aiming towards SaaS companies that are looking at AI, not only to help them in their own businesses, but also to help their customers' businesses. And what's exciting about that is there's many different avenues that people can go down, right? We can look at driving revenue. We could look at optimizing or reducing costs. We can look at operational efficiencies. And the spirit of this podcast is really to kind of bring to light very common trends and situations that a lot of small to medium-sized business owners have. And I'm excited to get with Justin here. We had a chance to catch up prior to this call, and we talked about a few things. So there may be some questions throughout this that we're already feeding off of what we already discussed. But I feel like what he has to offer in his business is very cool, very unique. So all that being said, my name is Jim Slowick. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Emergent IT. We do exactly that. Justin, actually, I'm gonna steal this line from you, Justin. When you mentioned in our last call, there's a lot of AI tools out there and wizards and things that you can use to help you in your business, but it's still missing the human element, right? So that's why I built my company, is to try to help bring the human element to people on their AI journey, and hopefully share some best practices for everybody that that you could take with you in your own journey. So, all that being said, Justin, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, James. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great stuff. I know you're an extremely busy guy, and you've got a really cool product that I'm excited for people to hear about, which leads you on the road a lot, right? So,
yes, it does.
Why don't we just go ahead and start with you telling us a little bit about your story, your background, ultimately how you got to the point you're at today.
You bet. So I had no idea that I would ever be in a situation like this. I had no idea that at my age I'd be doing a podcast.
That's great.
Yeah. So my background, originally I was an educator and I worked in sports. Okay, I was a strength and conditioning coach. I did strength and conditioning from high school through college into professional sports. Had a great time with it. Education, it was great. But back to the age thing, the only way that I thought that I was an effective educator was by being relevant to the students. And as I got older, I became no longer relevant. And actually it was kind of funny because
theory, isn't it?
It is. But yeah. I had, and I'll never forget this turning point moment where I'm teaching a class and the kids were kind of out of control, stuff like that. These are high school kids. And this one kid was the ringleader. And I just said, "Hey, Tony Danza, who's the boss?" And no one got it. Nobody got it. I was like, this is gold. I'm giving you gold. And they're just like looking at me like, "Okay, weirdo."
We share the same problem. I say movie lines all the time in my house, and then people were looking at me like, "What? It's not funny. What's that funny?"
Yeah. Yeah.
You got another reference, right? Exactly.
Yeah. So pivoted. I have a really good friend who we would lift weights together, and he was always he knew I was frustrated with what I was doing. And he had said numerous times, "Man, you ought to come and try this construction gig out. It's great." And, obviously he worked in construction. And so I pivoted thinking that I was going to land in this cushy construction management job. And I was wrong. I showed up and they said, "Yeah, we see the potential here. We can do this, but here's a hammer, go learn." And so
I love it though. I love it.
Yeah. It was scary. Very, very
probably scary and new field. And hear you.
Oh yeah. And got a family, and I'm asking myself, what have I done? Oh man, don't screw this up.
Yeah.
And so, so got into it and ended up getting hurt on the job. And that was another pivotal moment where, I was I'd never been hurt on a job before. And because I was a teacher, so not going to get hurt. Anyway, so I get hurt on the job. And they put me on what's called modified duty. And I found myself with all of this education and experience walking around picking up nails. And I stopped the project manager. He was going by on a golf cart and he had just stopped and said, "Hey, how's it going?" And I said, "Tim, I can be doing a lot more than picking up nails."
Nails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I have a brain. I could use it.
Yeah. And his response was so fantastic. He said, "Wait, you want to learn stuff?" Well, yeah, come on, man. And that kind of started a process for me where I went, because originally in construction, I had thought that I would be doing, project management, things like that. I ended up, because of being injured, going into the safety realm and have been so satisfied with it. And just, it was great. I mean, as a former educator, you kind of already have that innate need to nurture and take care of folks.
Well said.
And
Yep.
this just kind of, it paralleled it. I mean, all of a
Mhm,
sudden I
mhm.
found myself teaching again and, doing all these things just with Tonka trucks. Okay. And adults. So that led to, years of doing that. And then I had the project that I'm currently on is massive. And
Mhm,
when we first got started, I was the only person out there doing what I do. And
mm.
I had read an article about artificial intelligence and how they were using artificial intelligence in the medical field to diagnose cancer. And because it was taking two radiologists to read the scans and they were missing things, and then they would feed the scans into artificial intelligence and it was picking up, I think, 7 times as many instances of cancer. And
Wow. That's astounding, right? That's crazy.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And so
Mm.
I'm out there on this massive job site, and my partner in this business, he's also my best friend. And I'd called him and I just said, "Hey," and he works in tech. And I'd said, "Hey, would this be possible? Okay. Would it be possible for someone in the field to take a picture of a job site and have AI analyze the job site and tell you what the hazards are?"
Yeah.
And his response was, "I think that's the coolest idea I've ever heard of."
That is a very cool idea. When I first pulled
Yeah.
up your website, I'm like, wow, this is very, like a lot of businesses try to be unique, right? What makes you stand out? And I was
Mhm.
trying to do some research around some competition. And I think you mentioned a couple last time we spoke, like some drone technology and whatnot. But what you guys are doing as far as the timeliness to response to, I'm sure you'll get into that a little bit. But I just felt like, wow, this is really creative and what seems very nichey to me, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And when we started this thing, it's weird because at the time we literally were the tip of the spear. No one had done this before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the scary
Patent
thing,
time,
James.
right? Yeah.
What's that?
I said patent time, right?
Well, we actually looked at that, but
Okay.
how rapidly technology changes, everything
Good
would have
part.
changed by the time
Yeah. It's
we
hard
had
to
a
get your arms
patent.
around that. Yeah, makes
Yeah.
sense. Yep.
Yeah. So we just came up with a really cool name and try to
Mhm,
stay in front of everything.
mhm. I love it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's,
Mhm.
and then to have built something that is field friendly and actually works,
That's awesome.
yeah, if nothing else, I mean, if the thing falls on its face or whatever, just knowing that we did that,
Yeah, yeah,
it's pretty
absolutely. I
cool.
mean,
It's pretty
and
cool.
what I love about your company too, which I think is inspiring, is not only did you have a cool product, but you are really saving lives, right? You are really helping,
Yeah.
these sites stay safe. There's got to be some solace in knowing that,
Oh,
maybe
absolutely.
you're protecting people out there, which is awesome, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think about that all the time
Mhm.
about, hey, these folks are showing up to do very dangerous work.
Mhm.
And if we have something that ensures that they're able to go home and see their family or
Yeah,
do the things that they want to do, it's an absolute win.
that's a
Yeah,
great win.
it's the
That's a
coolest
great
thing in the
win.
world. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very awesome. Very cool stuff. Yeah, so how long have you guys been at it? How are you I think I saw a couple years now
Yeah,
in the business?
we're creeping up on 2.
Mhm.
Actually had Once it was actually built,
Yep,
okay, and then we did our whole, build a company, come up with a name, do all the stuff,
yep.
and we have learned so much through this process
It's wild, right?
because
Yep.
yeah, yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. I've met amazing people. We've had so many failures going through this, but that's kind of the cool part
That's how
is
you grow, right?
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. It's like, "Oh,
that's
that didn't work. Let's do this." You know?
yep. You see this out on Michael Jordan, how many times they show him winning game game winners, but there's a lot that he missed too, right? And there's some really cool, analogies around, you got to, people that don't quit and just stay in it are the ones that are hardest to beat, right? At the end of the
Yeah.
day. So
Yeah.
kudos to you guys. It's awesome. Obviously, you're passionate about your product, and maybe we can just kind of double click on the getting started part, because I feel like there's a lot of people, that are probably right where you're at, are looking to get into something really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it could feel overwhelming. I know it did for myself, right? And I've
Mm-hmm.
been in the field for many, many years, but there's still the whole unknown. And, like you leveraged your network and relationships, I'm sure, which probably got you some revenue, out of the gate. But, walk us through, what are some of the things that you were thinking about as you got started? Like, how are we going to go and find new opportunities? And what's the right persona to go after? And,
Sure.
and I'll just kind of sidebar this. If this feels at all like it's given up some competitive info, we can edit this out. But I was
Yep.
just kind of going along this lines of thinking, like, there's a lot of people hungry for seeing people that, have developed their business and then where they generate revenue. So I'll pause
Yeah.
there, kind of go back into it. Maybe you can share with us a little bit around, some of the creative ideas that and maybe you used AI, maybe you could share some of that, but curious how you really started driving some revenue into your business as you got started.
Well, so we had a really cool idea. Okay. Neither one of us, are business people. So, and when we first got started with this, and I keep this image, and it's kind of a very simple breakdown of why people don't push through these things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because initially in this image, it's all these, what you think are all these other people with all the same ideas and all the same stuff. And then it boils down to pretty much, it's just you and one other person. Okay.
Right.
Or as it was written in the picture, it boils down to you and another dude,
Yep.
okay, who are
Yep.
willing to just to not give up, okay, and to
That's
keep
it.
trying and all
Yep.
these things. And so yeah, once we had the thing built and it worked, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot, because in our minds, we're like, we have the coolest thing ever, this is
No one's going to
everyone's
touch
gonna
us, right? And there's nothing out there like
and
this. Yep.
everyone's going to want this, and by tomorrow we're going to be gazillionaires, and I'm going to have to get a monocle and a cummerbund just because. But yeah,
It is funny how
we were
you like
wrong.
start to dream build a little bit. That's
Yeah,
great. That's
yeah,
what's great about owning a
yeah.
business.
And so we went in for we had an opportunity to present this thing to a handful of very large contracting companies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we go in, we have no presentation. All we
Yeah.
had was a phone.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And with the thing on it, and we plugged it into their projector in the office. And
Yeah.
all these folks are sitting there like, God, another
Presentation.
stupid sales
Yeah.
presentation. And I just said, well, we don't have a presentation. Can someone text me a picture of something screwed up on the job site? And they're
I
like,
love it.
oh, we've got millions of those.
Real
And I said,
time
okay.
example. I love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
And so this guy sends a picture in the room, and I run the report, and all of a sudden, seeing the perspective change as this room full of high level folks are watching the machine do its job in seconds, and they're reading, and all of a sudden they're like, you've got to be kidding me.
Wow.
And then they started, and then
Wow.
I'm, my phone, they're sending so many pictures. Okay.
That's
And
kind of
they're
giving
like,
me
how
chills.
fast
That's
can it
kind of
do it?
awesome. Yeah.
Oh, it was cool. It was
Awesome.
cool.
That's awesome.
It was very, very cool.
That's like a
And
mic
they're
drop moment, really, at that point, right? It's kind of like,
yeah,
we need
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Well, until
Yeah.
yeah, we had no idea. I mean, like I said before, we're kind of the first. And
Yeah.
so we had no idea what to price this thing at.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And they're asking, or they said, yes, we want this. How much does it cost?
How much would
And
you be willing to pay, right?
yeah, well, my business partner, he just said a lot. And and it was cool because it was a great learning experience. I mean, they ultimately ended up not going with us because we were still in beta testing.
They were a little
They
shy, a
wanted
little premature. Yeah.
well, they wanted the finished product.
I
Okay,
gotcha.
they
Okay.
didn't want to be part of the build. They wanted,
Yep.
"Hey,
Yep.
give us the thing because we're going to deploy it in the field."
Yep. Yep.
And so that was a good learning experience. And then as we moved forward, the price piece has always been an issue
Hmm.
because there's nothing else out there like it.
Sure.
And when you have something that's so convenient that, anyone that has a smartphone can use it.
Yeah.
And that was the other point with this was building it for folks that are adverse to technology.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Because it's not geared for, just anybody. It's geared for folks that actually have a lot of experience and know what
Yep.
they're looking at.
Right. Yep. Makes sense.
Because if you put this in the hands of someone who doesn't know a construction site, it'll shut the construction site down. Okay.
Mm.
Because they're going to be like,
Mhm.
oh my God, everything's going to kill us out here.
Everything's blowing up.
Yeah. 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 And so, yeah, so we built it in a way that, I can use it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
That, it's easy to use. You open it up and you hit start
Yep.
and away you go.
Snaps a picture and
Yeah,
analyzes.
yeah, and
Okay.
then it spits out a report that shows what the potential hazards are. First, it tells you what you're looking at. Then it talks about the potential hazards, the violation levels, the
Yeah.
fees,
Yep.
and then how to fix it.
Awesome.
So yeah, yeah, and
That's
then and
great, man.
then
That's great. That's really cool.
yeah, but back to your point, yes, I leveraged it by talking to folks at companies I'd worked at before
Yeah. Yep.
that
Your
I'd
network.
had
Mhm.
relationships with,
Mhm.
and because everything boils down to relationships.
Amen. The
And
human
yeah,
element we talked about,
yes,
right?
there we
Yep.
go, right back to it. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yep,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. People want to buy from people they trust and know, and I'm sure you have a tremendous reputation out there, which for the people that you know, those are the easier conversations. They're not always easy, but easier,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Just curious, so kind of once you went through your network and started to find some opportunities, did you start to explore like, okay, in order for us to really grow this thing, we're probably going to need to attack a certain type of persona, right? Someone that maybe is in a leadership or managerial level that has direct responsibility for site safety and things of that nature? Or was it more, just continuing to work your partnerships and word of mouth and references? And I'm just kind of curious if you've kind of got into that. How do we really scale this thing type of conversation with your partner?
Well, it's a great question. It's been a lot of both.
Hmm.
Okay. Originally, when we got started, we learned that at the contractor level, at the company level, they love it, but
Hmm.
they are like, this is awesome. Okay, I got to go back to work. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we had to pivot, and because we had looked at the possibilities of reaching out and seeing if we could get funded to build it out, to all these, we looked at kind of everything,
Like
and what we
private equity.
learned,
Hmm.
yes, private
Yeah.
equity, venture
Yeah.
capital.
Yeah.
And in those discussions, it was kind of the same thing where we would talk to a gatekeeper who was like, wow, you guys are really onto something. How much, what's your traction like? And
Sure. Yeah.
I call it a, an issue, but I'm honest. Okay.
Yeah.
And
That's
so,
that's that's what you want to work
yeah,
with, right?
yeah, yeah. And so, I would tell them like, hey, we've developed this thing. These are the
Hmm.
issues. And
Hmm.
the response that I'd gotten was, well, if you're not generating around $1 million annually, we can't really help you. And my response to that was, if we're generating 1 million annually, we don't need your help.
Probably don't need you.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Your
And
subscription
so,
revenue will be just fine at $1 million annually at that point, right?
yeah, yeah. And so we pivoted. We struggled with okay, so how are we going to do this? How are we going to get this out there? And it kind of boiled down to figuring out that it needs to be implemented into the daily workflow.
Right.
Okay. So on a project, you're going to have an engineer or a superintendent who is doing continuous updates on production. So they're taking pictures, they're doing all this stuff. They have to
Mhm.
use this software, okay, to do their job. And
Yeah.
so our idea was, okay, enough with the talking directly to the contractor. Let's go to the thing that they have to do their job. And that has been a turning point for us, because once it's into the daily workflow of folks that are building the product or the project, they're no longer thinking to themselves, or not. It's not another step, and it goes back to efficiency.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I want to touch on this because there's so much fear with AI and that it's taking people's jobs. And the fear is that, Skynet's coming and the Terminator, back to movie references, James.
Elon's going to have robots everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Yeah. And the reality is it's just a tool, okay?
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be a fear association. It should be an enhancement. Okay. So if you're so scared that a computer tool is going to take your job, you might not be very good at your job. Okay. Honestly, because I look at
Love
it,
it.
I
I love it.
look at it like this. Okay. So if I have this tool that makes me more efficient and more
Mhm.
accurate, I can be in more places. I can
That's
do
right.
a better job.
That's
Okay.
right. Yep.
And having a tool that accelerates your efficiency is nothing but a win
Well
in
said.
my
Well,
mind.
extremely well said. And I'm glad you kind of you high mark that for a second. I would love to kind of just double click on that myself. There is a lot of fear out there of people losing their jobs, and you see the Goldman Sachs, the massive layoffs, and the Cisco's and all the others. And so it's not like it's unreasonable, right? When you hear of all
Mhm,
the massive takeover that AI is doing to help optimize workload, what I
mhm.
like to try to get out from a messaging perspective is, man, I think the right conversation is how do we level up the people, the great people that you do have,
There it
right?
is. There it is. Right
You
there.
know,
Yep.
because you'd have an administrative assistant, a secretary, a chief of staff. There's a lot of titles out there for people that really help executives like yourself with their day-to-day tasks. Now, in smaller companies, that is one or two people wear so many hats, right? They're
Mhm.
billing, they're collecting, they're calling back customers, they're doing the whole customer experience. They're running the day to day to do stuff so that you can be the, consultant business driver that the business needs. But to your point, there's so many just awesome, outcomes that have come through AI that can really help with those day to day mundane tasks that really can kind of pivot and make your people that you do love and admire and just level them up a little bit,
Exactly.
Maybe maybe that doesn't fit all cases in larger companies where they have a task to reduce headcount. That's the world we live in. That would be the
Right.
case if AI wasn't here, right? That's the
Right.
layoffs have
Right.
been going on for forever, and it just depends on how the company reinvests in R&D and how they're profitable and so on and so forth. But I love the point you made, and thanks for calling that out. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that watch the show that are already under the pre-context. I go on YouTube and I look at other people's comments of other podcasts,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's very easy to get a lot of hate out there. Just people hate to
Sure.
hate. You know what I mean? They're just hating on anything. And but I did see a common theme of, people just being fearful, like this is going to
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
I think you said it articulately very well. I think these are tools. You still need the human element for people to buy from people. You still need the trust factor.
Yes.
This is how our industry is going to continue to grow, whether AI was present or not, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
I
great
I
thought.
look at it as I look at it as the wheel,
That's
okay?
it. That's right.
Way, way, way back before the
Back.
wheel was invented,
that's
okay, folks were doing stuff, and then along comes the wheel,
that's
all
right.
right?
Yep.
And AI is and all the wheel is a tool, and same thing with AI.
How do you
It's
best
not
leverage it? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
exactly. How do you
Mhm,
leverage it?
mhm. Yep.
How do you make this tool make you better? How
That's right.
does it help you? Yeah,
That's right.
and the crazy thing with it is, AI, it doesn't feel, it doesn't think, okay, but it wants to be right.
That's right.
And that's one of the things that we figured out. And it's crazy how many parallels as we're going through this journey, things happen and we're reacting to it within our business. Okay. And one of the big ones, we had started out back in December of 25. We realized that we needed a more specific version of artificial intelligence. Okay.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, I don't know, like a month, 2 months later, I'd read an article about all of these attorneys who are being hit with these fees because they have been using artificial intelligence to pull up cases, okay, for
Cases and
reference. Yeah,
references.
for reference, okay.
Yeah,
And
sure,
they're
sure.
using this stuff, and the AI wants to be right. And so the AI, general AI, started building its own cases, okay. And
Wow.
now these attorneys are using them in court
Yep,
and referencing these.
yep.
And then someone finally actually did a dive on it, and we're like, hey, these are fake, okay. This is not
Wow.
real.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's that whole AI hallucination piece.
It is.
And yeah, and so what we ended up doing as all that was unfolding, we had already started building our own
Yep.
because we recognized that when it comes to safety in construction or anything, you can't mess up,
Mhm.
okay?
Mhm.
Because if there's a misquote, if there's a whatever, okay, and somebody gets hurt, boy,
Huge liability. Yeah, huge.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and so that prompted us to build our own that only
Smart,
knows.
smart. Your
Yeah, it,
specific trade. Yeah, that's
yeah, yeah,
genius. Yeah.
yeah, and we modeled it after kind of the medical industry and the
Mhm.
financial industry
Mhm.
because that's exactly what they did. They, you and I were talking
Yeah,
when we
last time.
first spoke, yeah,
Mhm.
about I tend to look at artificial intelligence like Chat GPT, Gemini, all these things as like a general practitioner, okay,
Yep.
of medicine.
Yep.
Really, really good at a lot of stuff. Okay. But if you are having a heart issue, you're going to go
Yep.
talk to a cardiologist.
Cardiologist. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And so we
Mhm.
built a cardiologist.
Got it.
It only knows this one thing. It's really, really good at it, but it's not going to write a resume.
That's right.
It's not
That's
going to
right.
write a poem.
That's
Okay.
right. It's not gonna not gonna tell you how to make beef stroganoff, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
I got
Exactly.
and it's definitely not gonna help you with your golf swing, just a quick pivot on that. I started getting into ChatGPT like crazy, and I also love to golf, and there were some things that I heard some conflicting messages out there, and so I asked them, and there's a lot of like discovery now around how there's different modes that you could put this in, and there's like friendly mode, and then there's like brutal honest mode, and all the modes
Yep.
that you can actually have it spit out you want. But I started to think, before I even looked at any of that stuff, like you're right, maybe the accuracy of some of this just to pay based upon the data set, and there's a angle of looking to appease the audience in some cases
Yep.
based on the algorithm. So like that to me is interesting, and especially interesting in a field where there is no room for granularity, right? So
Yeah.
it's a really
Yeah.
good call out. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Thanks, man.
Man, very, very cool program. Very cool stuff. If you were to just give advice to someone, starting a company, looking to break into, some uniqueness or build an app or, start to utilize AE or AI around, some of their, just thoughts on how we can generate revenue. Do you have any advice for them at this point?
Yeah. Don't give up.
Yep. That's just gonna say
I mean, honestly,
yeah,
like with the setbacks, and we'll have more setbacks. Okay. It's the nature of the beast.
it is. Yep, absolutely.
But I think that maintaining a sense of humility and gratitude, okay, and then steel in your spine, okay. And
Mhm.
what I mean by this is humility and gratitude. Like right now, this is awesome.
I
Okay.
love it, man. I really
I
appreciate just the banter. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, I
and
probably gain a friendship out of this long term. We'll
yes,
figure out how to help each
yeah,
other down the road for sure. It's great.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm humbled in the sense that, I'm given the opportunity to sit and chat with you about something
Mhm.
that we built
That's right.
that is useful. And so there's the humility and the gratitude piece. The steel in your spine is just having the resolve to not quit.
That's it. The grit.
The
Mhm.
belief that what
Mhm.
you're doing is useful, it's
Yep.
beneficial,
Yep.
and it's going to help the greater good.
That's great. That's
So
great.
I think,
You're checking all those boxes, Justin. It's pretty awesome. Yeah,
well,
and
we're
I'm excited for you. I want to see you, blow this thing up and have it on every construction site out there and be wildly successful. So hopefully, we get the right audience, we get some right listeners that, hopefully doesn't end
Yeah.
around and starts to reach out to you. But I think, your advice you've given through, how hard it is to start, but having a cool product and feeling good about what you do. And like, that's all the stuff that keeps you motivated, right? At the end
Yeah.
of the day, which
Yeah.
I'm in the
The
same
other
boat. You get
piece,
to meet guys like you and have all these creative, like,
yeah,
offerings out there. And how does AI kind of bring it all together? For me, it's like I'm starting over again learning.
yeah,
Like when you're in
exactly,
when you're
exactly.
in the same field for a while, you kind of get stagnant sometimes. And,
Yep.
like I've been selling Cisco networking equipment my whole life to data centers, right? To very large organizations. And it's the thrill of the hunt and they're big deals and it's cool. But there's something special about, working with small and medium sized business owners that are, have a really cool offering out to the public. And to your point, if it's saving lives, if it's doing all this other stuff, that's way more fun than crawling around in a data center somewhere. So this is good
Yeah,
for me.
yeah, yeah. No, it's
I love
awesome.
it.
The
Yeah.
other the other piece of advice that I would give, and I screwed up on this. I wish I would have known this at the, when we first got started, is stay away from dream stealers.
Mhm.
Okay. Because, I would talk to folks about, oh, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And I would immediately get that sense of
Yep.
like,
Like, "Oh,
man,
that's not gonna go anywhere. Good luck.
yeah,
Why don't you just go work for so and so?" Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, and then I would regret opening my mouth about it, even though I'm
Yeah,
super excited. But dream stealers, that's what I call them. But
yeah.
the energy you surround yourself with is what you get.
Amen,
Okay,
amen.
and so
You
yeah,
get out
yeah,
what you
you
put
get it.
in. Yep, I do, and I was just gonna, just highly reaffirm everything you're just saying. Like it's just hard. What I found, the best people to talk to is people like yourself, right? Even if there's any negativity that you get in any of the things that you're doing in your business, you don't hear a lot of successful business owners talk like that, right? They will give you some reality, like, hey, it's not easy, and
Right?
people think, oh, I'm going to start my own business and I'm going to work whenever I want. No, you actually work a lot harder, right? In a lot of cases,
Yes,
like no break.
that
That's
is
for
the
sure.
triple truth.
Yeah. But, you said something and I'm glad you shared that with the audience because, that's a lot of businesses fail within the first year or two because, just didn't have the start that they wanted or they heard a lot of rejection or whatever else. And, it's that grit that you mentioned and not giving up and believing in what you're doing. And, the people that just kind of just, there's going to be good days and bad days and just keep grinding through it, to your point, just never giving up. Opportunity affords itself to the people that continue to fight. Right. So
Yeah,
I appreciate you sharing that. That's good for
yeah,
for
James,
the
thank you.
audience.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. So maybe just kind of one final thought. What's looking ahead? What's the next big thing for you and your company? Are you excited about anything other than the fact of just getting your app out there?
Well, yeah, we're very excited about the possibilities and potentials.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is as we've been going through this thing, the folks are starting to recognize the potential. Okay. So you have to understand the construction industry is a multi-trillion-dollar industry that is 30 to 40 years behind the curve with technology.
Sure.
And it also tends to be a tech adverse industry. And folks are looking for, they'll see something new and shiny and think, oh, this is going to make us more efficient.
Hmm.
This is going to make us more profitable, all these other things.
Yep.
But if a company just buys software, they just bought software. It's
Right.
all about deployment. It's all about training. It's all about getting folks to believe in what you just purchased. Why?
That's right.
Give them the why. Why did
Yep.
we just spend all this money?
Yep.
Okay, so there's the potential piece of it. Okay, and then it's kind of we're excited for the potential and the story. I mean,
It
I got to
is,
tell
man.
you, James, I got
It
to.
is. It is.
This is
I'm
it's
excited
the
for you. Just the story alone, I feel like is just fun to listen to. You know what I mean? It's great.
Well, and as we've gone along and we've had the, doors slammed in our faces and, all those things as we're moving forward with this, my business partner, he and I were talking about this on Saturday. Okay.
Hmm.
And it kind of all boils down to even if this is a colossal failure, at least we tried
Yeah.
and we have been having so much fun
Fun.
doing this.
That's awesome.
And that's, yeah. And,
That's what it's all about,
it's,
really, at the end of the day.
yeah,
Do you get up and enjoy what you're doing? And like you said, there's gonna be good days and bad days and doors slammed, but also opportunities given and like
yeah.
all that stuff together is
Yes.
just
It's
fun to be
awesome.
a part
It's
of. Yeah,
awesome.
exactly.
And that's the
You don't
coolest
get that
thing is
working in
like,
corporate America, right? You do to some
yeah,
degree, but not like it's your own, so
right. Right.
that's pretty cool
And,
stuff.
and that goes back to the whole, I may sound hippy dippy when I talk about the gratitude and humility piece, but
Mhm.
it definitely, it keeps things in perspective to be able to reflect on it and recognize that, man, I have this opportunity. I get to I'm talking to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And your audience.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. It's
And
fun.
I get this opportunity off of something that we built.
That's
And
right.
it's just, yeah, it's awesome.
And I
So,
think you just
yeah,
keep putting yourself in those positions and you're doing the right things by not only your customers, but by the people that work at your customers. And, all of that, I think is groundswell for there's got to be some great success in there. Like it's just not something that, it's highly commoditized. It's not something that, what I love about it is you bring all the years of experience that you have, plus your IT co-partner that has the technical prowess to be able to maybe pivot at certain times based upon a client's need or things of that nature,
yeah,
right? And there's so many cool opportunities coming out, with Perplexity and Claude and some of these things that you could potentially start to staple some of these really great code generating type opportunities into expanding your portfolio and into other revenue generating things like you mentioned before, right?
sure. Yeah,
So
yeah,
the sky's the
absolutely.
limit. Once you kind of get in there and win some trust, you could build some revenue that way, which is awesome. Yeah, I love it. Well, Justin, this has been truly insightful. I can't thank you enough, again, for just coming through this process and finding out about the podcast and what we're trying to do. And you're the ideal, interviewer or interviewee, just because this is exactly what we're trying to inspire with the show is to bring thought leaders together and business
Yeah,
owners. The theme here is how do we help each other and how do we, find
exactly.
some really great AI initiatives to continue to grow a space that is a little bit uncommon, a little bit sketchy, a little bit, but I think there's some really great opportunity and goodness in there too at the same time. So it's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you
Yeah.
very much, James. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
man.
the opportunity. Thank you very much for the time. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
really enjoyed it. It's
this
been
was a
great to get
blast.
just to get to know you and hear your journey and all I've got a high degree of confidence that you're gonna make this very successful. It'll be fun to watch along the way. So it's good stuff.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. All right, sir. Thanks
Okay,
again.
thank you.
Appreciate you joining. Okay.